Every day I open up my phone lately, I see someone telling me my face is puffy because of cortisol. My gut is inflamed because of seed oils. And apparently my hormones are a disaster because I drink coffee before breakfast. So today I'm deep diving into the world of anti-inflammatory diets, cortisol face, and hormone balancing foods. There is quite a bit of misinformation online, but there's also some science-backed, helpful advice. I'm gonna break down what's real, what's ridiculous, and try an anti-inflammatory diet for a week to see if I notice any changes. So yeah, this seems to be the new buzzword, hormone balancing anti-inflammatory. So what the hell is it? The anti-inflammatory diet is all about eating foods that may help lower chronic inflammation in your body. Chronic inflammation is linked to things such as heart disease, obesity, and even some autoimmune issues. So it makes sense reducing it can be helpful. Foods typically include lots of vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, fatty fish, olive oil, whole grains, antioxidant-rich foods. Which I know just sounds like a basic whole food diet. Wow. How many times can TikTok repackage that one? Before we dive into all the misinformation and the facts, here's how I'm starting my week of trying the anti-inflammatory diet. I'm using advice based from Harvard Medical and Johns Hopkins. And then later we're gonna dive more into the TikTok misinformation and cortisol face. But according to Harvard Medical, the foods they recommend for an anti-inflammatory diet are tomatoes, olive oil, green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kale, and collards, nuts like almonds and walnuts, fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, tuna, and sardines, fruits like strawberries, blueberries, cherries, and oranges. Then from Johns Hopkins, which is pretty similar, is omega-3s, salmons, herring, mackerel, sardines, tuna, and anchovies. Also, vegan omega-3 they included was nuts and seeds. Foods high in vitamin C, which is citrus fruits and bell peppers. Foods high in polyphenols, which are dark chocolate, omega-3s, whole grains, coffee. Oh, anytime a challenge involves coffee, I'm happy. That's all I need. Gut health foods, fermented foods, probiotics like yogurt and cottage cheese, and prebiotics like asparagus, banana, and chicory. Okay, here's the things I'm gonna be prioritizing. I have it written down. Vegetables, fruits, fatty fish, nuts, seeds, olive oil, whole grains, and legumes. I'm gonna try and limit ultra-processed foods, added sugar, and fried foods. And the main focus, balanced meals at regular times and staying hydrated. Day number 1, we're starting it with a yogurt bowl, which I felt had all these. Had the fermented food from the yogurts. We had this like chia hemp seed mix. We get the omegas, a lot of walnuts, great for the brain. Of course, I'm gonna flavor it with maple syrup because I'm Canadian and I could do honey, but guess what? This Canadian is showing off the maple syrup. Then some berries and some more nuts to start off with a protein omega-3 packed breakfast. So lunch, I didn't have time to make lunch, so I ordered a chicken rice bowl with wheat berries, carrots, sweet potatoes, apples, walnuts, drizzled with an olive oil and balsamic dressing. Then for dinner, we're going all nutrients in. Rice, salmon, cucumbers, squash mix, beets, drizzled with olive oil, and the world's best hot sauce, Valentina's. Honestly, good eating day. I'm feeling good. Like, it was a delicious food day. It was a healthy food day. I feel like I'm thriving. And I have extra from dinner that I'm gonna use for my lunch tomorrow. So what you're seeing now is pretty much gonna be my lunch. And the second I heard chocolate was in this anti-inflammatory diet, you knew I was gonna have it for dessert. Now what I'm hoping to see, I'm actually currently taking some medications that are causing a little bit of like hormone shifts, little mood swings, you know what I mean? I'm not very balanced. So I'm just curious if eating this way diminishes some of the side effects. Day 2, a simple burrito bowl inspired breakfast with yams, black beans, salmon, eggs, and some greens. Lunch was easy because I made double at dinner last night to use as leftovers. And then I just added some chickpeas to bulk it up a bit more because it wasn't a big enough portion. For dinner, we got a Thai coconut soup with some pumpkin seeds on top. And then on the side, we got a whole grain toasted bun with drizzled in olive oil, a bunch of peppers for all those antioxidants. And I had a random hard-boiled egg. Because you know, a little extra protein. Okay, I'm pretty rushed this morning, so I'm just gonna throw together a smoothie. I'm not a big smoothie person, like I'll do it like once a week, a couple times a month for breakfast, but I am rushed. And I'm gonna make my typical smoothie recipe because it actually follows into the framework, except one thing, protein powder. Because like protein powder, technically you could like say is ultra processed, like it's a lot of processing to get it done, but I still would consider this not anti-inflammatory, especially like a really good high quality one, like a whey protein isolate by Momentous. Not sponsored, I just love the brand. But here's my little hack to get protein. Not there is Greek yogurt. So we got oikos, Greek yogurt, but Then I'm like, yogurt's also processed. But this isn't a non-processed, it's anti-inflammatory. So let's make this. Okay, my smoothie recipe is usually pretty basic. Whatever frozen fruit I'm in the mood for. All I had in the freezer was raspberries and strawberries, so that's the theme of it. I also throw in some oats for some extra fiber and carbs. I like to throw in some kind of like healthy fats, some other little fun nutrients. So for today, I'm doing some hemp and chia seed, which I love. And then I also put in coconut oil or like a peanut butter, nut butter, but today we just have coconut oil, and to sweeten it, maple syrup. Delicious. Off we go. I'm in such a rush. So day 3, I actually decided to go to Victoria with my mom. With anti-inflammatory, it also becomes lifestyle, stress management. So I'm thinking, what is the best way to de-stress? Sauna cold plunge, time in nature, time with your mom. So I'm meeting with my mom in Victoria for Girls Weekend. And this has all been great so far in this challenge, but is it that much easier to stick to while traveling and like randomly having to order off a menu? Right now is the worst moment. Oh, that's cold.
How long is it in here for?
It should be a minute.
A minute?
Once you're in, it's not too bad.
Brave. Really brave.
3, 2, 1. The misinformation spiral. Cortisol face, seed oils, and fear-mongering. Now let's talk about some of the stuff we're seeing on TikTok and Instagram. First, cortisol face. The idea that stress raises cortisol, resulting in a puffy and inflamed face. Now, there's some truth to this. Chronic stress can impact your skin, digestion, and water retention. But claiming 1 week of stressfulness to like permanently change your face is very unlikely, except for like little changes in diet. And like, yeah, puffiness from not enough water, too much water, excessive sleep, like a little puffiness is fine. But like, it's all this like chronic cortisol face they're kind of saying. And I'm like, guys, that's a disease. It's called Cushing disease, and this is chronic cortisol. And the best way I could say is like, this is one of those things that like people online find information and they find, you know, excessive cortisol can lead to a puffy face. My face is swollen, and so this means it's excessive cortisol. But no, Cushing disease is actually prescription, and this is chronic stress. Just a little bit of stress in our lives is fine. Our bodies are adapted, and that's why it's important to do things like resistance training. If you want to do things like cold exposure, doing hard things allows you to adapt to stresses more. But saying you have cortisol face for a little bit of stress is like cleaning your apartment once and saying you have chronic OCD. Just realize that. Yes, you might want to put everything in a particular little place, and that's fine. And you know, we all get a little bit of stress, and you might have a little bit of puffiness, but saying like you have full cortisol face is not turning a light switch on 30 times or spending 60 minutes picking at your face or telling your mom I love you in even numbers after 10. Otherwise, you're convinced she'll die. True story. Now, could cortisol cause a puffy face? Yes, but there is so many more things that are more likely to make your face just feel a little bit puffy, like high salt intake, diet, eczema, allergies, or how you sleep, says UCI Health endocrinologist Dr. Mabob Hussain. So let's talk about demonizing specific foods like seed oils. I'm so scared to dive into this. Oh my God, it is a polarizing thing on the internet. Because according to TikTok, if you look at a seed oil, you will indeed self-combust. The reality, according to places like Harvard, a little canola oil isn't going to ruin your health. Chronic overconsumption of ultra-processed foods might contribute to inflammation, but context matters. For example, just processed food. You might hear processed food, avoid all processed food. Now, the reason they use ultra-processed now, because guess what? You cut that orange, that's processed. Cutting is a process. Grinding is a process. Cooking is a process. Ultra-processed tends to be things that are like multiple layers manufactured. And so that's where we need to distinguish, like not all processing bad. If things are multiple level ultra processed, they're probably lacked of nutrients. This is the most recent article I could find from Harvard Health about seed oils. Patients asked me if they need to avoid seed oils because they've seen social media claims that these oils are toxic and can promote all sorts of disease, say Allison Kane, a dietitian at Harvard-affiliated Massachusetts General Hospital. But these oils aren't inherently unhealthy. It all depends on how you use them. That is combined with specific types of food and how much you're consuming. But then a Harvard nutritionist also said the 5 foods to avoid to keep your memory and focus sharp. Number 1, foods made with industrial and processed seed oils. Highly processed oils are often extracted from soybeans, corn, rapeseed, sourced canola oil, cottonseed, sunflower, and safflower seeds, and contain a lot of omega-6 fatty acids. Excessive consumption of omega-6 can trigger the body to produce chemicals that can lead to inflammation in the brain. If you're sauteing vegetables or grilling fish or meat, she recommends using olive, coconut, or avocado oil. From Dr. Uma Nadio. She's the director of nutritional and lifestyle psychiatry at Massachusetts General Hospital and author of best-selling book, This Is Your Brain on Food. My thoughts, once again, those are both more qualified than me. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist. This is just from my own personal thoughts and my own blood work done. I, a while back, got blood work done and my omega-3s weren't great. So I'm really on like my omega-3s journey. And time again, longevity studies are just showing the importance of omega-3 for longevity health. How many bad things can be caused by just not having optimum omega-3s. And I think potentially one of the things we're gonna be more, it's less that these seed oils, these high omega-6s are bad, and it just tends to be they're in replace of omega-3s. Like we would be better from omega-3s. So it's not that they're inherently bad, it's just we only eat so much in a day, and if you're eating all omega-6 and seed oils, you don't have the place for the omega-3. So is it they're bad? My thought, not a dietitian, do your own research. I don't think they're that bad. I'm not scared of them. I'm just scared of not getting omega-3s. So I have to be conscious of, no, I can't just have that, especially as someone who can't have avocados, which are really high in like omega-9s and things like that, is I really have to be conscious of having fish multiple times a week, supplementing with the fish oil, and eating a lot of macadamia nuts. And so I think that's one thing with Medicine 3.0, Nutrition 3.0, is knowing what works for you. But I do wonder if the next stage we're going to start seeing is less demonization of the seed oils and more just promotion of the omega-3s, which seems perfect. Let's see if I've gotten healthier. Over the last 8 months, I've been mega dosing on omega-3s to see if I could actually impact my omega-3 ratios and how it affected my cholesterol and everything else. So let's go get that tested. Excited to see the progress in my blood work. I got my omega-3 ratios up, and this resulted in my bad cholesterol lowering by 30 points. So my thoughts moving forward, I'm worrying less on seed oils and more on omega-3s. The older I get, the more I realize like nutrition isn't about elimination, it's just making sure you get enough of the good stuff, which is kind of complicated. It sounds simple, but getting a lot of the good stuff is actually complicated versus hearing something like oversimplified hormone balancing claims. Eat these 5 foods, fix your hormones. Like that seems so simple too though. But guess what is going to regulate your hormones? At the end of the day, I'm going to remind you of this. Hormones are regulated through your entire lifestyle, your sleep, your stress, your exercise, and overall diet, not just a couple foods. So yes, inflammation, hormones, and cortisol all play a role in how we feel, but the internet has turned this into a toxic wellness circus. So day 4, and I'm mixing some electrolytes before we go out on a nice long walk with my mom. Now, one thing in the past that happened to me when I was in like bodybuilding and all that, and really like very whole foods, it was just meats, proteins, veg, nothing prepackaged, all natural. Just cooked. And that was also the anti-salt era. The combo of the two was awful. I had so many cramps because natural foods, like a lot of these in the anti-inflammatory diet, are lacking of sodium, which is great for someone if they're trying to have a low sodium diet, if that's what a doctor told them to. But for me specifically, someone who's very active, that is really harmful because sodium is one of the most beneficial electrolyte you need to keep adequate hydration levels. And so I have to be really mindful of salting my food during this challenge and also making sure I get my electrolytes in. And of course, my favorite electrolyte is Element because of its science-based ratio of 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. It is trusted by athletes in the NHL, NBA, NFL, and most importantly, it tastes delicious. The citrus with some ice water in the summer, spring, or the chocolate with some warm water in the colder months just for that vibe. Both of them taste delicious. It is a healthy habit I look forward to. And since I have taken it, I've pretty much eliminated all cramps I get from running and weightlifting because that was what was causing a electrolyte imbalance. Also, a headache in the middle of the day. Brain fog can sometimes be an electrolyte imbalance, especially if you're someone who's working out a lot. So if you're someone who's very active working out, consider getting an electrolyte supplement into your routine to make sure you stay hydrated, and also very beneficial in the summer months when you have had a little too much to drink. It can definitely help with the hangover. And of course, I'm not going to talk about it and not give you guys a code. If you go to drinkelement.com/Keltie, you'll get one of their travel packets with your purchase. It's a great way to try all 8 flavors or share with a salty friend. Once again, that's drinkelement.com/Keltie. Thank you, Element, for sponsoring this video. I feel so blessed that I got to go to Victoria to spend some time with my mom, but I won't lie, I started hitting a few roadblocks.
This is crazy.
Oh my God. I could easily get some things that would be classified in this anti-inflammatory, things like oysters, fruits, and stuff. But then yes, at times I was having things like tacos and potato skins, which I know aren't exactly on this plan for this video. But then I had this really cute reminder, which I thought I should say. When I went for sushi, I was really craving cucumber maki, which I will admit is the lamest thing to order at sushi. But I just love getting it, smothering it in wasabi and soy sauce, and it's so good. So I decided I'm with my mom. I can't be embarrassed with my mom, so I ordered it. And my mom says, "You loved that when you were a kid." And then it brought me right back to a core memory of going to sushi at the mall with my mom, and I would always get salmon sashimi and the cucumber maki as a little girl. That just reminded me so much, of course, that as much as food is about nutrients and health and longevity and your skin and all that, I personally think the most important thing about food is memories and times with loved ones. And this was like a core memory of me as a little girl with my mom, and it brought me right back. And that will be more important than any nutrient dense thing, in my opinion. I'm noticing two problems right now with the anti-inflammatory diet. One, while I'm traveling, it's been really hard to get enough calories because many of the anti-inflammatory foods aren't high carb foods. So like we went to sushi and like technically rice isn't in it. And like the first day I had potatoes, that was good. But like I've had to have rice and bread. Otherwise I'm just going to way under eat, which is not healthy. I'm not good, but not being in my kitchen, not having a grocery store, preparing carbs, very hard. Second, a lot of fish, a lot of sushi, which I love. Typically, fish like that can also be high in mercury. What would be anti-inflammatory? High in mercury. So it's like great in theory, but you know, pregnant women are told not to have sushi because of mercury. So great in theory, reality? I'm on the boat back from my little few days with my mom, and my digestion is feeling good. My skin is not more or less puffy, and I think my energy is stable, but I'm also sleeping better this week. So it's really hard to say if it was my food versus just my overall stress. I won't lie, this is for the most part was really easy, especially being on the West Coast and availability of a lot of omega-3s, the fruits and all that. The only thing I started to find a little complicated was the grains. And this is where I wouldn't say misinformation, just conflicting things. Like some of these anti-inflammatory diets said whole grains, which would mean oats. And I could have things like sourdough and high fiber and quinoa and brown rice. But then other things said like avoid potatoes and white rice. But then at the same time, potatoes and yams are root vegetables. So this is where it's like, even if I'm following it 100%, like there's such conflicting things. How do I follow it 100%? For the most part, I just focused on having a lot of the great stuff. High vitamin C, high omega-3s, high fiber, high polyphenols. And then yes, I had white rice and bread. And you did not see that Diet Coke. You did not see that Diet Coke. What does the science actually say about anti-inflammatory diets? Not just TikTok. Research shows that they can help reduce risk of chronic disease like heart disease and type 2 diabetes, according to Harvard School of Public Health. The diets like the Mediterranean diet are a great example. The Mediterranean diet is pretty much the anti-inflammatory diet, and it is time and time again showed up in the literature of just being like a great way to eat whole foods full of those good things like omega-3s, polyphenols, fiber.
So as much as inflammation and anti-inflammatory eating are buzzwords in the world of nutrition, they are also real, tangible scientific concepts. For example, there's something called the Dietary Inflammatory Index, which you can look up. It's basically an evaluation of how different foods and nutrients, based on a large amount of studies, influence inflammatory markers in the human body. So some items that come up really high in terms of being anti-inflammatory based on the best evidence are things like onion, garlic, turmeric, other herbs and spices, berries like blueberries, dark chocolate, green tea, artichoke, foods with beta carotene like sweet potatoes and leafy greens, right? The list goes on, and we have good evidence to suggest if you increase your intake of these foods, inflammation in your body will go down, and your heart, your liver, your digestive system, they don't like inflammation. Additionally, high levels of inflammation in the body can also contribute to insulin resistance, which is common in conditions like PCOS and diabetes and fatty liver disease. So there's a real tangible reason why we should care about foods which are anti-inflammatory. And one of the easiest ways you can reduce inflammation through your diet right now is just to use more herbs and spices, oregano, thyme, saffron. The list goes on and on. There are abundant options out there, but just simply using herbs and spices more often plus everything else I mentioned, can lower inflammation in your body and improve your general health as a result.
Now, what about your cortisol and diet? Just know cortisol is your stress hormone and it fluctuates naturally throughout your day, throughout the week. High cortisol over time can contribute to poor sleep, which causes cravings, and yes, water retention. But you can't just eat that away, chronic stress. You have to deal with stress management in other ways. Managing cortisol can be balanced meals, good sleep, regular movement, stress reduction. It's the whole picture, not just a superfood. Now, how about this hormone balancing? Eating a balanced diet can support healthy hormones, especially in women. Nutrients like omega-3s, fiber, healthy fats, and magnesium all play a role. But like you said before, it's not this like specific way is going to like cure all these things. It's just doing a bunch of the good stuff overall over time is just giving your body the building blocks to be healthy.
Eating to balance your hormones is a very popular topic in the world of nutrition, particularly in the world of social media nutrition. So I'm going to give a few thoughts on this area. Let's start with cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So we've seen that cortisol face has become a popularized topic. Scientists generally agree that in the vast majority of cases where people have water retention and swelling in their face, it is not just due to a little bit of extra stress. So that's not really a real thing affecting most people. That's most likely water retention or a skin condition, too much sodium, one of those, right? But cortisol is a real thing and a real hormone, and one way you can lower it that science shows us is to engage in relaxation exercises like yoga, meditation, or deep breathing, okay? Let's talk about testosterone next. If we have a young male, they don't want low testosterone, okay? And the best way to avoid low testosterone, or one of them, is to avoid low-fat, overly restrictive diets. You need enough fat in your diet to produce testosterone. So be very careful with restrictive dieting. That's number one. Now, if we take women, for example, who have PCOS. PCOS is a condition that is characterized by above average levels of male hormones in women, which can cause health issues. One way to lower testosterone levels in women is to lower insulin resistance by consuming lower glycemic index foods like lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, and black beans, eating more slowly, and also making sure that you have protein at every meal. So those are some quick tips. Now, we could also talk about estrogen. A lot of people find, or certainly have found online, that microplastics that we're exposed to in daily life could interrupt estrogen production in the body because microplastics bind onto hormone receptors in the body. But guess what? Some new evidence just came out that anthocyanins, which are found in blueberries, which are very anti-inflammatory, they might also compete with microplastics, stopping them from binding hormone receptors. And then so theoretically speaking, we could say that blueberries are hormone superfood because they protect us against the negative effect of microplastics, and of course they also reduce inflammation. And so what a wonderful connection it is that hormones and inflammation are connected in this way, and it really speaks to the fact that the human body really works as a unit and not as an individual bits and bobs.
Breakfast today, we had an egg scrambled and potato bowl with an oatmeal chia berry parfait on the side. Then try this like whole grain nut seed cookie. It was pretty good, tasted healthy, tasted yummy. It was no chocolate chip.
Healthy, but good.
Then threw some fish and potatoes in the air fryer with a Greek salad for lunch and forgot to film dinner.
We got an omelet, we smoked salmon, we got some potatoes on the side. It's good.
Then had some sourdough and eggs for a pre-run fuel. Grabbed a smoothie with berries and protein powder for a post-run. God bless Body Energy for giving me the extras on the side, so I had a little shot of smoothie before my smoothie. And then forgot to film lunch, but ended dinner with a bang. And my last meal this challenge will indeed be pizza. Because every Sunday night, pretty much, mine and Meg's ritual is to get a big salad and a big pizza. And if I didn't have that ritual, I'd be stressed. And the worst thing for inflammation is stress. Therefore, I must have pizza. Therefore, part of inflammation diet.
Oh, no cheese pull for you.
Gaslighting myself. So what I learned and some realistic takeaways that you might be able to apply. Some foods recommended in the anti-inflammatory diet are great, but they're not magic. Reducing ultra-processed food and focusing on whole food does typically make people look better, but there's no need to fear seed oils or a cookie or anything. Like, they're not inherently bad, just you want to make sure you're getting enough nutrients. So you can have it all, but we need to fearmonger less and just promote more of the good stuff. Cortisol face is not cured from blueberries. Either you have Cushing disease and need to talk to a medical professional, well. Or if you've noticed your face has just been a little puffy, a little swollen, make sure you're sleeping. Making sure you're getting enough hydration. Consider your sodium balance. Stress reduction, are you exercising, and overall good habits are just as likely to reduce it as a specific random food in the Mediterranean diet. So 6 simple tips you can start today. Eat more plants, fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, whole grains. 2, incorporate omega-3s from fatty fish, flax seeds, walnuts. 3, manage stress, sleep, gentle movement, boundaries. 4, be conscious of ultra-processed food, but don't fear any food groups. And 6, support gut health from eating high fiber and fermented foods. So yeah, this is one of those things. The anti-inflammatory diet is not really a thing, but TikTok is blown out of proportion. It's just, yeah, a lot of those foods are part of a well-balanced lifestyle, and you can include them. We don't need to go to the extreme and say they're causing things like cortisol face. But that's just my own personal experience, plus some advice from professionals I've seen online. I'd love to hear down in the comments, what other crazy, wacky diet or fitness thing have you seen on TikTok or Instagram lately, aside from the cortisol face? I would love to hear down in the comments. And if you've all had any experience with trying something like an anti-inflammatory diet or being sucked in by the TikTok trends, comment down below, because once again, I love that part of my YouTube videos is the comment section can also be a review from other individuals aside from myself. But most importantly, have a great day. Go pet a dog. Love you guys. Bye.